بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي بنعمته تتم الصالحات. It is only through the fadl of Allah that we have been granted the opportunity to complete yet another month of Ramadan. And it is from the favors of Allah that over the course of this Ramadan we could have a brief look at the lives of 28 of the Tabi'een. There were more Tabi'een than stars in the sky, so it would be impossible to encompass them all. But even just from the brief glance that we've had, it is sufficient for a person to understand why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had said, خَيْرُ الْقُرُونِ قَرْنِي ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُمْ ثُمَّ الَّذِينَ يَلُونَهُمْ, that the best of era is my era, then the era after that, then the era after that. When a person looks at the lives of the Tabi'een, then the one thing that stands out clear as daylight is the fact that the Tabi'een lived in the footsteps of the Sahaabah Radhiallaahu Anhum, and that's what made them so great. Just like the Sahaabah Radhiallaahu Anhum were great due to them following Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in every single aspect of life. Because there is no goodness in any way and any practice which goes against the Sunnah of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. The Tabi'een played many roles, but their primary role was supporting the Sahaabah Radhiallaahu Anhum. So while we know of the conquest of Sham, for example, the thing was that it wasn't just the Sahaba radiallahu anhum that fought there, because there were countless Tabi'een that helped make up the army of the Muslims. Likewise, when the jihad took place in Persia, in Iraq, and Africa, and so on, then the Tabi'een were involved every step of the way. Thus a person finds that after the Sahaba radiallahu anhum passed away, then the Tabi'een carried the message of Islam on, taking it to further and further lands. We've seen over the course of this series a bit from the ilmi side of things, how impeccable the Tabi'een were in preserving and transmitting the ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how they excelled in learning the different qira'at of the Quran, how deep the understanding of the deen was for them to start laying the foundations of fiqh and to complete the science within their era itself. Like we've seen that salah, fasting, recitation of the Quran, and jihad were aspects to be found in almost all their lives. And the only time they would not be partaking in the jihad is when they would be too far from the land where the jihad was taking place. The Tabi'een were true, complete Muslims, not selective ones, where a person will pick and choose which aspects of Islam he wants for himself and abandon that which he doesn't like. The lives of the Tabi'een also shows that ordinary people can become great due to their adherence to the deen of Allah. And that if you aid the deen of Allah, then Allah will aid you and make your feet firm and enable you to be able to do anything and withstand anything. Looking back on some of the ulama covered, a person can see the efforts of the fuqaha and the muhaddithin and how the various sciences of the deen were formulated and codified. In fact, even when it comes to the field of zuhud, also known as tasawwuf, the abstinence to the world and the purification of the soul, then the Tabi'een were at the forefront of this too. The Tabi'een included people from all walks of life, coming all the way from Abyssinia, with the Najashi being a ruler of a country that was so beloved to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that when he passed away, then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam performed the janazah salah for him in absentia, all the way over in Medina while the Najashi was in Abyssinia. Then one can go to Yemen and find Imam Uwais al-Qarni rahimahullah being such a zahid that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the best of the Tabi'een is a man named Uwais al-Qarni rahimahullah. And if a person moves over to North Africa, you find the likes of Musa ibn Nusayr rahimahullah, the conqueror of Morocco, and he too was from the Tabi'een. In fact, there is not a field of Islam but that you will find the Tabi'een there. That is why the deen of Islam could be passed over so smoothly and impeccably to the Atba'ut Tabi'een without anything being missed or overlooked. And the Atba'ut Tabi'een in turn passed it to the generation after them. And so the knowledge and practices of this deen has been passed down from generation to generation. And the only time things go wrong is when people shift away from that solid unbroken chain that leads back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they try to do things their own way, or they feel that things need to change with the times in order to be more fitting and politically correct for acceptance in the kafir world. No matter how much a person tries, The only way for this ummah to succeed is to follow the path laid down by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that which the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum passed on to the Tabi'een and so on, because that is the tried and tested path to success in this world and the year after. This is why the great Imam Malik ibn Anas rahimahullah used to say, the latter part of this ummah will never be rectified except by that which rectified the first part of it. Meaning that what was good for the Sahaba radiallahu anhum is equally as good today and will remain good until the end of the world. And what was prohibited then is prohibited now and will be prohibited until the end of time. And the way that they became great will remain the way to greatness always. May Allah make us people that follow the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam via the way shown to us by the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, the Tabi'een, the Atba'u Tabi'een, and the ulama that followed their path. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen, wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.